Lecture number 5. The universal and the individual are one. All has been handed over to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father, nor does anyone know the Father except the Son, and he to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. These words of Jesus are true to us as well. For when we realize that wholeness cannot be divided, that the infinite expressing himself must express himself in the Son, you and I, and because he cannot be divided, therefore he expresses himself, he hands over all to the Son. And no one knows the Son except the Father. For the Father knows the Son because he created the Son within himself, his own life, his own consciousness. Therefore, it is the Father expressing himself through the Son is the only reality. And nor does anyone know the Father except the Son. The Son of God is the Son who has reached that particular state of understanding by understanding himself, by seeing clearly what he has made up in his own mind is not God, is not truth. It is an idea of truth, a belief of truth. Not only must he see that, but he must also understand what he is himself, his cravings, his ideas, his jealousies, and all the things that make up the self. The self then must be understood so that it can dissolve away. Because if the self is not understood, it is expressing itself, and that is preventing the Father from expressing himself through the Son. So, nor does anyone know the Father except the Son, and he to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Therefore the Son chooses to reveal him to you. I choose to reveal that particular power and light that is within yourself to you. Therefore you will see what Jesus said in his words are applicable to you and me. Consciousness is the instrument of creation, the instrument of all activity from within out. You will notice that all things to be known at all, we must be conscious of them, even those sensations that arise from within. Therefore, all sensations must be interpreted within ourselves before we understand them. Vibrations of light, sound, touch, color. These vibrations come to us in the form of vibrations of light, vibration of sound, vibrations of touch. These vibrations are electromagnetic in nature, for the simple reason all things are electromagnetic. These vibrations then strike the eye. They are carried along the optic nerve to the optic thalamus, then to the optic center at the back. From there they are relegated to the various compartments of the brain, and they are interpreted and they are built up. You build up then in your own mind according to your experiences, according to your memory. You picture then your mind through your interpretation of those vibrations. You've made it up in your mind. Is that not so? It's all made up in your mind. Is that not so? Well, what's made up in your mind is not a reality, but the life that created the mechanism, the life that really is, the life that is consciousness, is the reality. But you do not know what consciousness is. You cannot make it up in your mind. Because you do not know what it is, you can't make a picture of it. It can't be made up in the mind, no matter how you try. But you can picture or make an idea of reality, which is only an image, an idea or belief, but you're externalizing some form which you worship. Therefore, you think that that is reality, but it is not. The subconscious is a name we give to the inner functions of the mind. It is not a separate mind. It is an organism through which we contact the inner world as well as the reflector of what we see, hear, and feel. After then you receive all these and you create pictures in your mind, you relegate them to a particular cell in your brain, where it remains there in the subterranean channels, and therefore it can be recalled again any time and brought forth, and that is your memory. Your experiences and your memories then are built up within you through external reactions, through feelings, and very often through feelings that rise within oneself. Unless one can understand those feelings, one can follow them through to the end. Even the thought that you create, the thought feeling then must be discerned clearly and distinctly and followed through to its complete end, then it will be understood. If it is not understood and your reactions are emotional and they are full of fear, you create those conditions which attach to your memory and your experience. Therefore, you say that these experiences that create emotional reactions are bad, and the ones that create pleasant reactions is good. But you will notice they're all made up within yourselves, the good and the pleasant and the unpleasant. They are all made up in yourselves. They belong to you. They do not belong to reality at all. But the fact is that if you do not discern them and understand them, you will find that they are preventing that which is real expressing itself. I of myself am nothing. It's the Spirit of the Father within me that is performing these deeds. You must see this clearly. But before you can see this, you must discern everything, all your memories and experiences, both good, bad, and indifferent, because they're all made up within yourself. If you can comprehend these things then clearly and follow out your feelings, these experiences, these memories that create havoc and destruction within you, if you can follow them out completely, then you will find that you know all about them and they will no longer bother you. But if you harbor them, you suppress them, and you do not understand them, they are bound to rise again and again. No matter what experience it is, whether it is good or bad or indifferent, it is your reactions to these things that count. That is the thing. You create them within yourselves. Now you can see clearly what I've been trying to drive at. That which you create within yourselves is not reality. No matter how you try to make it a reality, it is not so. Life is. You have never seen life. You have never seen electricity. You have never seen intelligence, but you have seen intelligence in action. When you see me here, standing before you, speaking to you, you see intelligence in action. Where is there anything, any human being that could create a mechanism that could think and speak at the same time? A mechanism that can bring into the mind, no matter whether it comes from beyond the mind or not, but a mechanism of the mind through which thoughts can flow without interruption and can give you the feeling of those thoughts. Where is the mechanism then that can build up this wonderful mechanism of the brain, the body, the larynx, the lips and the teeth and the mouth to form all those sounds. And where is the mechanism that enables the mind to interpret what is said? Don't you see, this is intelligence you see in action. You do not see the intelligence, but you see intelligence in action. And that intelligence is God, God expressing himself. But that is not made up in my mind. You can see it before you. You know that it is so, but you do not know what it is, but you know that it is. The solar plexus is the brain of the sympathetic nervous system and works in conjunction with the cerebellum, where all control of the subjective function is regulated, such as circulation, breathing, granular secretion, digestion, absorption, etc. Our emotional reflexes greatly affect this wonderful mechanism. Man is the expression of the universal mind, which is also the instrument of the universal consciousness. Therefore, we are bound up with the universal through our consciousness. That is why I have explained that consciousness alone is creative. Consciousness is cause. We can be caught up in both good and bad, health and ill health, success and failure. It is when we recognize this that we can free ourselves from opposites. When you think of health, why do you think of health? Because you are unhealthy, of course. Why do you think of success? Because you're afraid of failure, of course. Why do you think of good? Because you're afraid of the evil, of course. But don't you see, reality is neither. Don't you see, I told you before that there are two trees that grow in the Garden of Eden, the Garden of the Soul. And one is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It has only one root. It doesn't have two roots, one of good and one of evil. The good and evil grows out of the one tree, and that grows out of man's mind, man's own creations. But the other tree is life itself, and you are told to take hold of this tree of life, and it will be a spring of living water rising up to eternal life. So you see then, that life alone is living. Your creations do not live at all. They die. You create them, but they die, they pass away and dissolve into nothingness where they belong. But life is eternal, and that eternal is the present. And if your memories, your thoughts, and your experiences is blinding the present, which is the ever-present, then you can have no renewal in the present. But if you discern continuously your thoughts and emotions in the present, they will dissolve away, and there will be a continual renewal of the present, of the eternal in you, and you shall live. Life shall express itself. The universal mind is impersonal in nature, and we are created impersonally in the universal, for there cannot be any creation outside it. We also must have the qualities of the impersonal individualized in us. When we understand this, we will understand the saying, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. The universal mind must hold all the laws and means of manifestation. It knows how. You do not have to tell it how to digest your food. It knows how. You do not have to tell it how to cause the circulation to pour through your cells of your body. It knows how. When the child is born, it knows where to go for its milk. The universal mind is the vehicle in which God and man resemble each other. God and man resemble each other in the universal. and only there do they resemble each other, one being the product of the other, man made in God's likeness. And it cannot be otherwise, for the simple reason that God is infinite in nature and cannot be divided. Individualization is not division. Individualization is wholeness and expression of the whole in the many, but the many in the one, and the one in the many. If you can understand that, then you have found the secret, the pearl of great price. Through the universal creativeness, a man, a beast, a tree, a flower, etc. are created. All are creations in the universal mind, yet all are different phases of activity, producing their kind according to the seed or idea held in the universal mind. For there cannot be any creation outside it, being universal in nature. Consciousness alone being creative, we see that consciousness permeates the whole of the universe, including man. When man becomes truly aware of this, he becomes impersonal and becomes master of nature. This is the great truth the Master revealed, and it is the truth I am revealing to you so that you will realize that consciousness alone is creative. In the uncreated exists creativeness. In the created, creativeness does not exist. And if you realize that, you will see then that you will not put your dependence upon things created, but that which is uncreated. And in the uncreated, the consciousness of God and the consciousness of man are one and the same. And the consciousness of man is the uncreated, and in that is the creativeness. In your thoughts, emotions, in your images and your beliefs, in your memories and your experiences, your reactions and so forth, these are created things made up in yourselves. Therefore, they are not created. You must try and follow deeply, because you are now students of the most advanced teachings the world has ever had. And I want you to gradually unfold and unlock the tremendous forces and power that is within yourselves through your understanding that your consciousness alone is created. The consciousness of God and the consciousness of man are one and the same. So then, when man becomes truly aware of this, he becomes impersonal and becomes master of nature. The more impersonal you are, the more the universal mind will respond. Therefore, the personal is the hindrance to the expression of the impersonal. The personal is lost in separation between man and man. The impersonal is the unity between God and man. Therefore, the law operates for man as it does with God when man knows himself. This is the great truth. When Jesus said, "I do what I see the Father do," was proof of the complete understanding that the impersonal was expressing itself through him because he became impersonal. And if you become universal through your understanding of yourself, because you can never understand that which is beyond your mind if you're caught up in that which is made up in your mind. But that which is beyond your mind will reveal itself in all its glory, in its own perfection. Not that we can recognize or realize the perfection of that which is beyond the mind, because what is in the mind we compare. We cannot compare that which is within the mind to something that is beyond the mind. It is an utter impossibility. But we know this, that life itself is love, wisdom, and power. That is the Trinity of life in action. There is no other power except that: love, wisdom, and power. Love and wisdom are the two pillars in which the power is developed and controlled and directed, because of the fact that love alone is perfection. Love alone is creative. It exists in every atom. It exists as the essence in everything that is created, and will remain as the essence when all the others have dissolved away. What is created again, then, I say, will dissolve into nothingness out of which it arose, or out of the substance of which it arose. But that the essence, which is the creativeness within, will remain eternal, and that is the ever-present, that is not changeable, that does not change. The ever-present, the eternal, there is no change. That is the remaining power in you and me. If you try then to become something, and many of you are trying to become, in your becoming you have lost reality. Reality is being now. Has God to be created? Of course not. God is now because he is eternal. And if God is, I am. Therefore, it is not that I have to become something. It is that I am now. That is the Christ. That is the Master. And it will be forever so. No matter whether you leave this body or not, you will find that it will be so. You will still have to recognize that you are, so that you will escape these things that are made up in your mind. So your becoming is making up in your mind something of yourself, about yourself in some way or another. You want to become something. You want to become spiritual so that you can express God, as it were. You want to heal. You want to teach. You want to do all these things you want to become. If you only knew that now, eternally, you are. At this moment, it is so. And whatever you will ever become, you are now, at this moment. Becoming is an illusion. Being is reality. Therefore, the law operates for man as it does with God when man knows himself. Knowing the self is much more than is generally understood. Know thyself is but a phrase of speech. But to know the self, one must understand the self, the ways of the self. Otherwise, the personal cannot be so superseded by the impersonal, for the personal will always remain the obstruction. The personal is always violating the laws of the impersonal through separation. Therefore, the personal must become aware of what it is doing. If the personal sees that it is living in separation, this is the first step to the elimination of the obstruction. And following this, there must be the discernment of the mind-heart. The mind-heart is a way of expressing your thoughts and feelings. What's in the mind and what is in the heart must be understood. Your thought feeling must be understood and clarified, so that it does not hinder the expression of that which is. If your experiences are understood, therefore they do not hinder you. The more experiences you have, the better. But to allow these experiences to hinder the expression of that which is beyond experiences is foolish and stupid. But is it not so that everyone is doing these things? Why then can't you realize the importance of these words that I am telling you? I can tell you all the things that are relative, I can speak to you in relative words, in relative terms. I can tell you everything that is in the mind. I'm telling you everything that is relative that you are doing, preventing that which is beyond your mind from manifesting itself. I cannot tell you the truth, for no one knows the truth. No one knows what truth is. No one knows that which is beyond mind, but we know that it is. And once we know, we can give expression to it. And when we give expression to it, is then we see the mighty power of love, wisdom, manifesting as the Son of God. The personal is always violating the laws of the impersonal through separation. To have an idea only of the impersonal is of little value, while the personal is still in separation, which is chaos. The lamb is represented as the impersonal. The lion is represented as the personal. It is said in the Bible that the lamb overcomes the lion, and both lie down together. The Christ is the Lamb of God. The Christ is the love, the wisdom, and the power of God. But the outer self is that which is unruly, which has to be understood. It is not controlling these things that counts, but the understanding of them, why this is unruly. If you do not then understand why the outer is unruly, you will never be able to reach that which is not unruly. Therefore it is said that the lamb shall overcome the lion. So it shall be, the Christ of God shall overcome the outer man, the man that lives in separation and chaos. It is because he lives in separation is the cause of all his misery. His misery is not created by anything external to himself, but created by himself through his reactions to conditions. And if you can realize this, then you'll have peace. Most people who suffer from various conditions of ill health, they try to escape through some form of another, through drinking, through so forth, this and that. They are all creating misery because they do not try to understand themselves. They want an escape, and they try to escape, but there is no escape. There is only an escape through discerning and understanding that which is trying or making you feel that you want to escape. And when the cause is understood, then all the misery passes away, and the self is the cause. So this is symbolical of the mystery of life itself. Love, the impersonal, must overcome all things personal. Love being eternal, creative power in the universe. What is universal in God is individualized in man. Only in God, only in the uncreated, only in the consciousness is there power. Man by himself is nothing. He's continually struggling to be something. And it is this struggle causes his misery. When you give up the struggle and you know that you are now, there becomes a peace that passes all understanding. This law operates universally so that the whole universe may express harmony. We must understand that the universal mind will create for the individual just as he thinks and feels. Therefore, if we live in opposites, we create opposites. Therefore, we create confusion, do we not? We think in fear and we think in faith at the same time. We fear something and then we say we must have faith. All the time you're fearing this thing and then you're trying to have faith. How stupid the mind is. Do you not see then that you're living in opposites? But when you understand fear, you try to eliminate fear by having faith. But how can you eliminate fear by having faith? Fear will still remain, will it not? Not until you understand fear. And when you understand fear, it will pass away and dissolve into nothingness. Fear is created in your mind through something, through a belief, through an idea of something. Therefore, if you understand how these things are created in your mind, then you will reach that which is beyond the mind, which does not live in opposites, but is reality. It is God. It is the Son of God who has reached that particular state of consciousness when he recognizes that the consciousness of God and the consciousness of the Son are one and the same. If we live in duality, it is evident that we do not understand, because we create both good and evil together within ourselves. Duality then exists only in the mind of man who does not know himself. So the whole world is preaching, is it not? Something that is made up in the mind. Go to any religious meeting you like, and you will find they're always preaching about sin and the devil and hell and everything. And then they try to tell you what God is, but how can they tell what God is when they can't even tell what's in their own minds? All these things made up in their mind. Jesus said these words. Do you not understand what I say to you? What do you mean by saying, show me the Father? Do you not? When you have seen me, you have seen the Father. Do you not realize that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? And the words that I speak are the Father's words? When we understand the laws that operate within ourselves, we will see what Paul says is true for us. Love never disappears. As for prophesying, it will be superseded. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will be superseded. For we only know bit by bit, and we only prophesy bit by bit. But when the perfect comes, the imperfect will be superseded. This is the law that man cannot disregard with impunity. Otherwise, he creates for himself all the misery from which he suffers. And not until he has discerned the ways of the self can this misery cease. Then love, which is the permanent, universal, eternal, creative power, will remain in him, and he will be free. Love is freeing. Wisdom is freeing. Knowledge is binding. But wisdom will show you how knowledge can also be freeing, and wisdom can show you what knowledge is. But knowledge on its own is binding and destructive. You will naturally have knowledge how to create things. You can create out of this universal substance we live in, which supports our bodies. The substance out of which everything is created is invisible in nature to the physical eye. It's what we call electromagnetic in nature. It is swept into being by the thought that is created in the consciousness that is directing it, and the form takes place. So we create things that are beneficial to mankind, and we create things that are destructive to mankind. How are you then to overcome the difficulty of creating both the things that are constructive and destructive? By knowing what knowledge is, by seeing that knowledge is binding and knowledge is destructive. But wisdom then comes to the fore and shows you how to use knowledge according to the wisdom and the love of God. Misery, therefore, is temporary and transient, a creation of man, not knowing himself. But immediately he becomes aware of the cause, which is the personal self. The cause will dissolve, and with it the effect also. Then reality will manifest immediately, for it is eternal and ever-present. Therefore, individual and world peace begins with us and not outside us. Wisdom guides the proper use of knowledge, as well as knowing what knowledge is. The accumulation of memory is made up from knowledge, with its scars of experience, and we are interpreting the present according to this memory, giving it continuity to its own scars and conditioning. Therefore, there can be no renewal of the present which flees the past when we are merely expressing our conditioning. And unless you understand that, you will never know the present. Our continuity of thought built upon memory is time-binding. So there can be no renewal, no rebirth of the ever-present. But if you have lived experience fully, completely, it leaves no trace behind. When you understand the experience, it does not give continuity to the self-identified memory, the memory in which you identify yourself with, the experience in which you identify yourself with. All your experiences, all your memories, if you identify yourself with them, then there can be no renewal in the ever-present. You must see those experiences without identification, without judgment, without comparison. Then you will see them for what they are. But if you identify yourself with them, if you judge them, you're caught up in them. Therefore you will identify yourself in your own judgment. Condemn not, lest ye be condemned. Is it not a fact that we consider the present as a means to an end? So the present loses its immense significance. The present is the eternal. But how can a mind that is made up of memory, experience, understand that which is not made up, which is beyond all value, the eternal? And you make up values in your mind, and according to your values, so you are. We must understand every experience to be free from the accumulation of memory that blinds the ever-present. As we do this consciously, the unconscious will come to the surface, so that all the conscious and the unconscious accumulation will no longer be a hindrance. It is those uncompleted, not understood experiences with their recurring memories that blind us to the ever-present reality. We cling so tenaciously to what we have gathered because we're afraid to be insecure. But security can only exist in the present and not in memories, nor in the past, nor in the future. So you cling to everything you have made up in your mind, thinking by doing so you are secure. And you're afraid to part with it because you think you will lose that security. But it's only when you have parted with it you shall find security. And that security exists now at every moment of your life in the present. When you then know and renew your life every moment in the ever-present, you will understand what the Master said, I of myself am nothing. It's the Spirit of the Father within me that doeth the work. Therefore, your meditation should be a continual renewal by dying to the past and dissolving the desire to become. Then the realization of being in the ever-present will be established. Only when the mind ceases to recreate its experiences is there true creativeness. When you cease to recreate your own experiences, then you shall be free. A lot of you worry about your karma, what has happened in the past. You're always living in the past. How can you ever know through renewal of the ever-present eternal if you're continually living in your karma, in which you believe karma is a reality? There's nothing of the sort, and the sooner you get it out of your minds, the better. It is hindering the expression of that which is real now in you. Karma is an idea of a religious sect. But when we get beyond religion Along those ideas and beliefs, that which is made up in the mind, we reach that which is real in itself. People are talking about karma and teaching karma, and these people know nothing at all about it. They've read something in a book about it, and then they try to expound what they read in a book. Have you ever read in a book what I'm telling you? Never. You have never seen it written in a book. If you will realize what I'm telling you, you will find then that I'm showing you what is relative, what is made up in the mind, and that which is made up in your mind is not true. I remember the very day. I've often told you so, but I want to bring it to your senses again, how I felt when I was told, my son, it doesn't matter very much whether it is true or not. And eventually I found it was so. But at that moment I felt a cleansing. That all the knowledge and all the material and all the things that I had learned in the past that were greatly confusing me, what happened to me? I was cleansed in one moment. It was a cleansing process that I've never felt before. But I knew that moment, the way he said it, I recognized at once it did not matter whether it was true or not. Is it not so that we try to eradicate symptoms rather than cause? And this applies to our physical ailments. Love, kindness, goodwill create a harmonious chemicalization of the body, exciting a healthy flow of all the secretions and opening the channels so that life forces surge through the organism. Our physical tensions, conflicts, maladjustments produce the major part of our body ailments. Unless there is a radical change in our values that create tension, there will and must be ever-increasing disharmony within and without. This radical change can only be brought about through understanding. When we become aware of our tensions and the cause without the conflict of opposites, I'm telling you, without the conflict of opposites, what is it that most people do when they find themselves tensed or something wrong with them? They immediately say a mantra, and they think that they can get rid of the condition by saying a mantra. Do you not know that you're creating the opposite all the time you say your mantra? You're living in opposites. Therefore, you must get rid of the conflict of opposites. Then they will begin to disappear, so that that which is eternal and ever-present, the all-creativeness will manifest. How can the all-creativeness that does not live in opposites manifest through a mind that is in conflict, in opposites? If you think clearly, you will see what you're doing. You're creating opposites, both things together, do you not, in yourselves? Well, when you see that, it will be the beginning of the elimination of your opposites and the beginning of the elimination of the confusion. With this understanding, you can say, divine life fills me, fills the inner mind, and the effects are seen on the outer. The physical body is a mechanism which is specially adapted for the transmission of the inner into modes of external activity. The whole body is traversed by a network of nerves and serves as a channel of communication between the indwelling spirit and the function of the external organ. Thought is the spirit's one mode of action, and all is the result of thought. But if your thought arises from your own conditioning, it has the effect of creating fear and apprehension, which interferes with the smooth running of the organism. The spirit is now complete. It does not have to become something else. It is ever present now, and we are renewed moment by moment with its completeness. When Jesus said, "Be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect," he knew this completeness, and that's what he meant. Be now what you are, what your Father is. You are not born of the blood of man, nor the will of man, nor the flesh of man, born of the Spirit of God. He knew this completeness. We must rest in the eternal. Then he shall reveal his glory in and through us. Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. The Creator, the Thinker, is therefore first cause. The thought is the secondary cause. The manifestation is the effect. Heaven means a higher state of consciousness. Earth means the lower. Jesus gave us the key when he said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you." There is no separation. Life alone lives. Life is not divided. Then the same life must exist that exists in God and man at the same time, in the timeless, the ever-present. This is the Christ consciousness. The Eternal will answer when you call, and when you cry, he will say, "Here am I." Isaiah 58:9. Benediction. In thy universal abode I do exist one with thee, for thy eternal nature is expressed in thy word that was made flesh. O ever-present eternal being, when I searched for thee in my personal self, I could not find thee. But when my personal self died, I found I was always one with thee, never for a moment separated, except in my own ignorance. Thou art behind my seeing. Thou art behind my hearing. Thou art behind my feeling. Thou art behind my touch. Now I see thy beauty in all thy creation, O mighty one. Now I hear thy voice in all that thou hast created. Thy being, thy eternal sweetness lay hidden within me. And when I awoke out of my mortal dream, it became my life, O eternal